Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 2, want to presentation about early approach to SLA. There is contrastive analysis CA and error analysis EA. CA, contrastive analysis. First, definition of contrastive analysis and the explanation. CA is an approach to the study of SLA which involves predicting and explaining learner problem based on a comparison of L1 and L2 to determine similarities and differences. CA is influenced by theory of psychology, which is structuralism and behaviorism. The goal of CA is efficiency in L2 teaching and testing. That's a Robert Lado theory. So, Robert Lado also have statement, and this statement is written in his book, Linguistics Across Culture. The plan of this book is that we can predict and describe the pattern that will cause difficulty in learning, and those that will not cause difficulty too, by comparing systematically the language and culture with native language and culture of the student. The focus of CA. The focus of CA according structuralist linguistics. First, surface form of L1 and L2 system. Second, describing and comparing the language one level at a time. Generally, comparing the phonology of L1 and L2 first, then morphology, then syntax, with lexicon receiving little attention, and discourse still less. The focus of CA according behaviorist psychology. There is two assumptions. First, habit formation. LA is essentially involves habit formation in a process of learner get a stimulus, and then they will respond it, and then reinforcement atau kebiasaan strengthen the response. Second assumption is transfer in learning. In the case of CLA, the transfer acquired in L1 to the target L2. In transfer in learning, there are two types of transfer. First is transfer positive, second is transfer negative. Transfer positive occur when two types of structure from L1 and L2 is same. Transfer negative occur when L1 structure is not same with L2 structure. The summarize of Lado's position. The easiest L2 structure are those which exist in L1 with the same form, meaning, and distribution, and are thus available for positive transfer. Any structure in L2 which has a form not occurring in L1 need to be learned. But this is not likely to be very difficult if it has the same meaning and distribution as an equivalent in L1. Among the most very difficult are structures where there is partial overlap but not equivalence in form, meaning, and distribution. Thank you.
Next material of comparative analysis is the type of interference which compares Spanish and English structure. The first type is same form and meaning but different distribution. La paloma blanca in Spanish means the dove white in English, and a way to make it into plural, the English will becomes the doves white. We put the additional s only in the noun. However, in Spanish way, they put the additional s in some part of speech. In this case, they put the additional s in the article, in the noun, and in the noun modifier, becomes Las Palomas Blancas. The second type is same meaning but different form. Ire actually means will go. Ir alone means go, and a in the end means will as a future tense suffix. But who will go? Spanish people assume the e suffix also has for the first subject, so the first subject was implied. However, in English, we must have overt pronoun in a sentence. In this case, the pronoun is I, so the sentence will be I will go. The next interference is same meaning but different form and distribution. Agua means water in English. Agua may occur only as a noun unless the form is being changed. On the other hand, water in English could be as some part of speech. For example, as a noun, in a glass of water, as a verb, in water the garden, and as a noun modifier, in water matter. The next interference is different form, partial overlap in meaning. In Spanish, we say different name for different leg. For example, pierna for human's leg, pata for animals or furniture's leg, and etapa for leg of race or trip. On the other hand, leg in English covers for all leg. It roll for a noun modifier. The last interference is similar form but different meaning. Asistir in Spanish may look like assist in English. However, the both word has different meaning. Asistir in Spanish means to attend, but assist in English means to help.
Okay, next is shortcoming of CA. The first is can't explain the logical problem of language. It's like the CA can explain the problem of the language biologically. The second is can show the valid proof. This is that CA can show the actual evidence of learning error. And the third is can responsible to learner error. The CA prediction does not occur for the learner's language. It's like problem of the CA has predict does not emerge. The fourth is the limitation in teaching. The language that CA have approached is too specific and unsuitable for the speaker of native language. Okay, the next is stimulate for learner's error. However, CA also plays a role of several ways, such as the first is stimulate the preparation of comparative grammar. This is like the CA also participate in grammar comparison. The second is applied to descriptive studies. The analytic procedures of CA is also useful to descriptive studies. And the third is applies to translation. It's like the descriptive studies. The analytic of the CA also useful for the translation, including the computer translation.
Error analysis, or EA, is the first approach to the study of second language acquisition, which includes an internal focus on learners' creative ability to construct language. The focus on error analysis is more specific in actual learner errors. It is not just hypothesis or assumption. So, these are the following developments why Error analysis replaced constructive analysis by the early 1970s. If you remember, my friends has discussed about constructive analysis, and these are the following developments. That's why EA replaced or augmented the CA. The first about prediction. Prediction made by contrastive analysis didn't always materialize in actual learner errors. Perhaps many real learners' errors couldn't be attributed or connected from the first language to the second language. The second is about linguistic theory. Because of the linguistic theory change, the surface level forms and patterns by structural linguists shift or change to concern for underlying rules. The third, the behaviorist assumption. The behaviorist assumption that habit formation accounts for language acquisition was seriously questioned by many linguists and psychologists. And the last, the study of second language acquisition was no longer motivated by teaching. Second language learning come to be taught as independent of second language teaching to some extent. And that's why researchers began to separate the issues in second language acquisition from pedagogical concern. So, if you remember about the second and the third point, the shift or the change that focus on surface level forms and patterns by structural linguistics, and also the explanation of language acquisition from behaviorism to mentalism are attributable in linguistics revolution, which resulted from Noam Chomsky to conclude what he claimed. It's about language have the essential rules for their basic sentence structures, plus a limited set rules which allow these rules to be modified.
Here I want to explain about the procedure for analyzing learner errors. The first is collection of a sample of learner language. It can use samples from some learners that are collected over a fixed period to determine patterns of change in the occurrence of their errors. After that, identification of errors. After we collect the samples from some learners' language, we can identify as that systematic errors or mistakes. Systematic errors are the result from learners' lack of second language knowledge. For example, if a 5-year-old Chinese child asked to make an essay in English, then the errors in the essay is due to his lack of understanding of English, while mistakes are the result from some kind of processing failure, such a lapse in memory. It means that the learner already learned this material, but probably he lapsed in memory or forget. The third is description of errors. It's usually classified to language level, general linguistic, or more specific linguistic elements. The fourth is explanation of errors. This could be said the most important step. The two things that most often result in errors are interlingual and intralingual. Interlingual means that the errors are happen between languages. For example, when we do a transfer from first language into second language. While intralingual means that the errors happen from the learner's incomplete learning of second language rules. The last is evaluation of errors. This step shows the effect of the errors that has occurred, such how serious it is or is that will affect the social acceptability, such qualifying for a job and etc. Even though error analysis becomes a useful procedure for study of SLA, but there are some shortcomings that should be underlined. The first is ambiguity in classification. For example, if a Chinese speakers eliminate numbers and tense inflection in their first language or in Chinese, in their second language, English, they will do the same because of their habit in first language, and it will result a telegraphic speech. The second is lack of positive data. Error analysis prefers mistakes or errors, and they will focus on them and rarely sees the correct use. This will make the learners focus on mistakes and tend to think negatively rather than positively. The third is potential for avoidance. Many learners avoid using clause because they avoid error occurrence. That way, they become afraid to learn it. Well, these are the shortcomings that we should keep in mind about error analysis.
Okay, this is from second group. Thanks for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.